just so you know, you forewarned is forearmed. No, no cuss words, Daniel, or anything inappropriate. Okay, so just you had your chance.
What?
No inappropriate jokes. None of that stuff.
Yeah, you too, Sherry. Sherry's the one you got to worry about. I can see it. She smiles, but she's trouble, man. She's a real troublemaker here. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. Tammy may jump in here. She is on a ferry en route to a singles retreat with 75 other single people this weekend, which she had signed up for a long time ago. And so little do they know that she is not romantically interested, but is going to coffee shop interview the bejesus out of them. And
they're all
oh my God,
in love with them too.
Perfect.
I know. So I gave her a big speech today about you got to figure out a way to not have these guys thinking that you want to date them when really you're just trying to enroll. So, so if she gets on, we can give her some advice about that. But yeah, she's going to have a very target-rich environment for coffee shop interviews for this weekend. So she's on a ferry from Walla Walla to, I don't know, I think it's on Puget Sound or something over the weekend. So that's going to be kind of cool. There you are, John. Good morning.
Good morning.
Awesome. Well, it's so good to have everybody here. Thank you all very much. I would love to hear from you guys how things are going and what's on your mind. I have a couple of ideas for stuff that we could talk about today, but I want to open it up to you guys as well in terms of just sharing things that you have going on or areas where you feel stuck and could use help from the group. So the couple of suggestions that I was going to throw into the mix in terms of what we cover in the call today is, number one, to talk about goals and accountability and how we create mechanisms for that where we're all encouraged, but where we're all also accountable to do what we say we want to do, and that we can really help each other to do that. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges in this business is that, you know, the great news is you don't have a boss staring over your shoulder, but the bad news is you don't have a boss staring over your shoulder. And so if you phone it in, you know, nobody's doing anything about it. And so we've got to create those mechanisms for ourselves to make sure that we are performing at the level that we want to and exhibiting the behaviors and activities that we want to. So that was one area that I thought would be a good discussion for us to have this week. The other area that I think would be great, especially if Tammy gets on, because we were talking about this morning, is I think it'd be good just as you guys are getting out there. And one of the things that inevitably comes up when you're meeting new people is that question of, so what do you do? And so for us to talk a little bit about the approaches that you can take to answering that question and how not to be weird and how not to throw up on people and all that fun stuff. So those were the two that I was going to throw in the hopper for this morning. Are there any other topics or areas that you guys are feeling stuck that you'd like to dive a little bit deeper today?
Something, Adrian, I think I had flagged for you earlier in the week was this idea of, okay, if we're going to do 7 touches on average, and if Tom's deal is, I want to complete the enrollment process for each individual, and that sometimes that's one conversation, other times it's 4 years of conversation. And last week, about all we got was, you'll know when it's time to present or to actually, like, look, man, I might have a solution for you.
Yeah.
And if that's where we have to leave it, that you'll just know, okay, great. But if you were able to, or if anybody else is able to really provide some any more guidance or coaching on that, I would be grateful, because I'm inclined to be a premature presenter. 60 seconds into the conversation, when they say they're broke and they can't currently live out their dreams, I'm like, sweet, we got a solution. 3-way with Tom.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, let's spend some time on that today. I think it would be great to revisit that on a future call that Dad is on as well, and to really, you know, challenge him out a little bit on it more, because I think he's got a lot of wisdom there. But let's definitely touch on that today as well. I think that's a really important topic. Anything else that anyone wants to throw into the mix?
I think that's my thing too. I was talking with Doug a little bit yesterday. Is you know, when do I present the opportunity? I mean, I can, or I guess when do I bring them into that? You know, I have an opportunity, but it kind of. I think if you'll answer what Doug is saying, if we'll talk about what Doug is saying, I'll get what I'm looking for there.
Okay, cool. All right, then we'll make sure we dive into that today.
Okay, so.
All right, perfect. Cool. Anybody else? Anything else?
Okay.
So we're going to.
That's a good topic to talk about. So I'm good with listening to that because I'm having trouble because like Doug said, I just want to, yeah, I got this opportunity for you, but also I know I don't want to throw up on people. So yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. All right. So let's start there then, and then we can circle back to those other two. So
one more just to flag, James, tell me if this isn't helpful, but we would also start to talk a little bit about the part of it's the why the CEO pack, right, James? You're muted. There you go.
Why well, the answer, I guess the answer, you're right, is CEO pack is where to bring them in at, but what do you do about the people that you can't bring in at $500? You know, I guess I don't understand that. Is that the initial when they come in has to be the $500 purchase?
Okay, cool. Let's knock that one out real quick because that's a pretty easy one. So just so we're all on the same page in terms of how the comp plan works to start off with, you know, there's essentially 4 ways that someone could purchase products. They could buy at retail and just buy straight from your website and pay retail if they choose to do that. There's not really any good reason to do it because it's a lot more expensive. The second thing they can do is to sign up as a preferred customer, which is free. Does not require a social security number, doesn't require anything. You don't get a distributorship, you don't get any commissions, but you can purchase product at wholesale. The third option is to become a distributor through just paying a one-time $25 fee. And then the fourth way is to purchase a CEO pack. Now there currently is a special, and Marianne might know the answer to when it's going to run out. But for the last about 3-4 weeks, they've had a special running that if you buy a Healthy Body Start Pack and want to become a distributor, they'll waive the $25. So they're basically allowing you to become a distributor without paying the fee at a lower price point. I don't know when that's going to go away.
I think that ended. Yeah, it ended right at the end of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the end of March. Okay, cool. So that's not on the table anymore. So those are the 4 options. And so what I would say is that you want to do it in the reverse order for somebody that you think is interested in building the business. You want to present it in the reverse order of what I said. And so what you want to do is what I think you want to do, what I do is when I'm talking to somebody, I don't say the only way, but I say the best way for you to get started in the business is to purchase what's called a CEO pack, which costs $499 to get you started. What that does is it waives any fees for you to get started as a distributor. It gets you started off with a really nice set of products that gives you the chance to really experience the products right out of the gate. So it gets you off to the right start in that becoming a product of the product. And what it also does is once you are CEO qualified, you are eligible for some additional bonuses that you aren't eligible up until you become CEO qualified. So that's the best way to get started in the business. And I usually just leave it there. I don't touch on the $25 and just see how that lands with somebody. And the reason why is, you know, for somebody who is any kind of business person in any other capacity, $499 as a startup cost, you know, is nothing, right? You know, Doug getting Legacy Legal LLC started, us getting Contact Mapping off the ground. I mean, tens of thousands, the many tens of thousands of dollars to start a traditional business. So to start it for $500 for a lot of people is a reasonable amount of money. Now, also for a lot of people, it's not a reasonable amount of, it may not be that it's unreasonable objectively, but it's just for a lot of people, $500 right now is a lot of money for them.
They don't have it. They're month to month.
That's understandable. What'd you say?
Yeah, they're month to month. They're paycheck to paycheck. They're hand to mouth.
Yeah. There's plenty of people out there that are like that. And I think then it becomes a conversation of, there's absolutely nothing wrong with coming in at the $25 level. But I think the challenge of somebody coming in at the $25 level is they just don't have very much skin in the game. And so if they're going to come in at the $25 level, I think that your job becomes more important and more serious to really qualify them and get them committed to really working their business. Because if they only throw $25 in, it would be easy for them to put up sort of a half measure of effort, be frustrated and, blame you or whatever, but they never really committed in their head that this was something that they were serious about and that they were going to commit to. And so that's kind of, does that help? Does that give you a sense for how to approach it? Do you have questions about that?
Yeah, I think it does.
Cool.
I think, Adrian, even just a couple quick minutes on the coding deal that I hadn't picked up until you said it the other day on, it's not just like you're not getting the bonuses for the first 4 months until you've bought enough Healthy Start Packs to get you to 500. It's that everybody that you enroll in that time period, you're forever not coded to them.
Yeah. So for somebody that's really looking to build and serious out of the gate, they are legitimately going to leave some serious money on the table by not getting CEO qualified out of the gate. And so I think it's more than just a scenario. There's certainly an element of that we want to set that precedent within our organization and have people build that way. But there really is a significant level. And so like, if you really are seeing somebody that is very serious about building, I would actually encourage them to consider waiting until they either have some enrollments ready where they're going to earn their money back in that first month, or where they can scrape together the $500, because it really is for their benefit that they're going to set themselves up for greater success in being coded the way they want to for those first legs that they bring in. And so one of the things, and I don't want to spend too much time on it today, because number one, I still don't feel like I totally have my head around it, but it's pretty complicated. This coding bonus is really cool, but it's a little tricky. And one of the first things that I want to do with the video production room that we are very, very close to having done finally is to have Dad is really good at explaining it, and to have him create a video that we can use with our team for explaining it a little bit better, because it's just, man, I don't know if you feel like you have your head around it, Marianne, but I feel like I had pounded my head against the wall, and every time I think I understand it, some new thing comes up and I bash my head against the wall again.
Actually, I understand it really, really well, but I think what happens, and I just want to throw this caveat out there, because I've had people come in, sign in, some big people, start this building going on, and then come to find out they're not coded to those people that they brought in and they started building under, right? So I think it's one of those things where, and I'd love to hear, what your dad has to say around that, and how to really coach people into making the best money they can, doing what they need to do right at the very beginning. Does that make sense? Because if you're not coded, I mean, there's people I'm not coded on, I'll never be coded on them, but other people that I'm, as you rank up, so what happens is you move from room to room. So when you become an a 1-star executive, everybody you sign up under there, you're coded to them as a 1-star executive. When you go to the 2-star executive, all those people are still in your 1-star room. Okay. And now you're in the 2-star executive, and everybody you sign up in the 2-star executive. And I kind of, I think of it as a room. Okay. So when you walk out of that room into the next room, just know that those people are still in your 1-star room. But it's it is complicated, but I've worked with it a lot. So, but I think that that whole aspect of coming in, being a CEO is really, really important, but then understanding that where the coding kicks in and what that means about the people you're signing out. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adrian, I think you've got a great point or strategy there about, I think I'm just going to flag it because I think it's fantastic, is if you don't currently have the 500, no problem. Let's get 4 people ready to rock, which is a bit of a qualification deal. Like if somebody actually comes up with 4 people, they probably mean business. And so you've qualified them and you've solved their financial problem, because it's an oversimplification, but if you sign up 4 people in a month, you pretty much break even on your CEO pack, I think. So I don't know if James is still listening, or I think he maybe got a phone call, but maybe that's one deal. So it's like, yeah, you can come in at 25, but honestly, it's even more strategic to not come in and just start doing the work, start doing the training, get in 65 and a wake up, whatever. Anyways, I think your point there is great.
I think it's worth really emphasizing that with people. And the cool thing is, Youngevity University is there. You don't have to be a distributor to get that. So pretty much anything that you are going to do with somebody as a distributor, you can do with them before they've actually signed up in terms of that onboarding process. So that, there's nothing stopping you from taking it that way.
Yeah. That's kind of what I did sort of for a period of time, just while I was kicking the tires.
I heard all that.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. All right. So let's circle back then to talking about this kind of timing and the 7 touches and how to think about when it's time to present. And I will be the first to say that I don't feel like I have all the answers on this, but I think that maybe I can put a little bit more color around Dad's comment that you'll just know. And Marianne, I'm sure you can too, and others as well. So please chime in. But, here's kind of how I think about it. And Doug is maybe a good conversation. Like it's in some ways a good example, maybe in some ways not, but I think it helps to illustrate it. So Doug and I had, we started talking about it like around January of 2017, something.
Youngevity?
Like that. Yeah.
I didn't know we were talking about it. I didn't know we were talking about it probably until July.
Yeah, July was when we had it, when it shifted. So maybe July is kind of the point that we're talking about. So there was kind of this interview from probably around January to July, and then July is when that shift happened. And what that looked like in his case was we were having a conversation where I was sharing about myself and what I was doing in a way that was intentional, that I wanted, I was interested to share that about myself, but I also wasn't trying to share it in a way that if Doug was going to be interested, that would pique his interest. So there was I had that in the back of my head of, I want to see if he gravitates towards this or if he doesn't, right? And there's other friends that I had a similar conversation with that clearly were nowhere near ready to hear it, whereas Doug would ask, had a lot of questions and those sort of things, and so we would talk about it just in the midst of catching up about life and all this other stuff. And so I let from the perspective of the business, and when it's somebody that's a friend, I think really leading with, this is what I'm up to, and not putting pressure on that relationship of this is what I want you to be up to, but letting them lead the degree of questioning is important. And I don't remember exactly what happened in the case of you, Doug, but there just came a point where you had said a few things where I was like, it had become clear to me, Doug is really not just being nice and asking questions, which Doug is really good at, but like it was clear enough to me that he was really thinking about this for himself, not just for me. And so we kind of had this conversation where it was like, hey man, I just want to throw this out here. We could work together on this. There's a few different ways that could look, but I also want you to know that I care, 1,000 times more about our friendship than the business. And so please don't take it the wrong way. If that doesn't resonate for you, that's totally no problem. Doug, does that resonate for you in terms of an applicable example, and would you add anything to that from your perspective as we have that conversation?
I think that's a fantastic model in the case of a good friend, where they actually care about you and they're interested in what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
I think that model is fantastic. And I think for me and for us, from what I've gathered from some of the rest of us, is it's, my example was the AC repairman that was at our house, and he's out like servicing the AC unit. And I asked 4 questions that he was eager to answer, which gave me more than enough of an angle of, well, hey man, there's something here if you're interested.
Yeah.
And so logically, he's just told me he wants to increase cash flow, wants to have his own company, wants to move back to Colorado but he doesn't have the money for it. And he hates the $50,000 per year ceiling at his current company. And he's demonstrated that he's got good people skills. So it's like in 60 seconds, I've qualified him in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because it's like, this is the only time I'm going to see him unless we like develop a relationship and have 7 cups of coffee over the next 6 weeks. I prematurely say, as he's leaving, hey man, if you're actually interested in some of what you're talking about. And he responded nice to it. And so and I've done that 10 different times in 10 different ways. I just get to it. I get to that place quickly, and I'm thinking, man, this is the opportunity.
Do you have people that respond that actually respond? I mean, they'll respond nice and be nice to you, but do they respond with a follow-up? Do they call you later?
A couple of times, yes. I mean, I don't know what the ratio is. But a decent friend that's also an attorney, he's like, yeah, man, I'm really interested. And doing a second 3-way with Adrian on Monday. Don't screw it up. And so, I mean, yeah, and he's, go ahead.
Well, I was just here's what I wanted to add is one, he's a friend. So you've already gotten a relationship and some trust there, right?
Right.
The other guy, complete stranger. So, figuring out, how that relationship is going to go. And I mean, I've had conversations like that as well. I just had some lady drive me home because I had to take my car into the shop. And I just started asking her questions, and her, husband's very ill. She said he was retired, and I said, great, what does he do? And she goes, well, nothing, but we didn't really have that rapport or relationship. It was just a, 10-minute conversation while she was driving me across town. Now I know where she works, and the chances are I'll run into her again. But I think that's the difference between if you have you already had, Adrian, a relationship with Doug. And it wasn't until that conversation, when it shifted, right? Because the things that you shared about Doug was, he's doing this, but he really wants to be doing this. And so you figured that out in the relationship, right? In the interview, that he wants to be so much bigger than he. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if that was me or you, but you cut out for the interview, and then I kind of missed what you said.
Anyway, in the interview, in your intentional questioning, you found out that even while he was doing
Now you muted yourself, Marianne, I think.
I got a call. I'm so sorry.
But I cut you.
Was I gone for a minute? I'm trying to hang up on a call. What the heck?
It's all good. But I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So so there's kind of 2 layers. Is you have to diagnose whether there's a need there, which sometimes happens really fast. and sometimes happens much faster than the other half of the equation, which is that you have to have trust and some rapport in a relationship. And those two things both have, it's kind of two things that have to both be there in order for you to be ready. So it might be that the relationship's there, but you haven't developed the interview enough. It might be that you hit the jackpot on the interview and got right to the heart of the matter, but the relationship isn't there yet. And so, you know, the guy, I don't know if everyone saw it, but there's the guy, Mike, who's the waiter at the restaurant, who's kind of the quirky guy from the South who wants to be a radio star, and dad is interested in recruiting him. You know, there's an example of a guy who fairly high interview score, fairly low relationship score. And what you saw dad do was use other touch points besides MLM to try to hook him and figure out how to help him. So he, instead of going straight to, I've got something that I think would be interesting to you, and if anybody could get away with it, that would probably be dad, because he does just have that bigger than he has that huge personality. But instead he goes to, you know, I've got this radio station, you should come check it out, or what, you know, whatever it is. And obviously not everybody has a radio show, but I think, you know, I'm into woodworking, and, you know, we got to go and work on a project together, or we got to go to the local, you know, maker space, and, you know, I'd love to show you that. Whatever it is that you got to find, you know, if this guy walks through the door and you know that they're a high quality prospect in terms of need, and at least as best you can tell, aptitude, what you've got to do is work like crazy to figure out what other touch points you can get on that person that give you the opportunity to build the relationship more, so that then you have the opportunity to present later. Does that help? Is it still too ambiguous as to the point when it's ready? What's your guys' feeling on that?
I think they want a flow chart.
I do too. If anybody could make one, it'd be Co. So I want to codify the flow chart
and update it annually.
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
I do like that. I think it's a great point, though, that there's the interview element and the relationship element. And I think where I've missed it's because the interview just went there quickly, but there's no relationship. And it's a two-dimensional thing, not just one. That's helpful.
Yeah. Are you guys all, is everyone on the call familiar with the high school ministry called Young Life?
No.
Young Life first, safety second.
Familiar with it. Okay, so Young Life is.
Are you talking to me? Something's happening to my audio. I'm gonna.
What?
Hold on.
Huh?
How does this thing work?
Okay.
Hello?
So Young Life is this ministry that is incredible, and their mission is to go and seek out the kids who would never walk through the door of a church because they just didn't grow up in a family like that, or whatever it is. And it's a totally relational ministry, and it's incredibly powerful. And so literally what you do if you're a Young Life leader is they tell you, go show up to the high school, you know, get permission and everything else, but literally go to the high school campus and just start talking to kids. And like, you are not trying to convert people. You're not doing anything. All you are doing is building relationships with these kids and caring and just showing up and loving them and caring about them. And the term that they use, so they call it contact work. Doesn't matter, but that's the term that they call it. So the mantra of contact work and the mantra of building relationships with these students is that you have to earn the right to be heard. And so I think that's a really good analogy for what we're doing, where we're out there, we're trying to love people, we're trying to care about them, but and we think we have something phenomenal to offer them of infinite value. But if we haven't earned the right to be heard, then, oh gosh, now she's in here. We're never going to get anything done.
Oh no.
So if you haven't earned the right to be heard, then nothing's ever going to happen, because the kid, you know, why would they listen to you, this, you know, random person that has just suddenly shown up in your life. Like you gotta build the relationship to the point where there's trust there, and that's what's going to enable that relationship to grow, and in the case of Young Life, hopefully ultimately to be able to, you know, to share the gospel with these kids. And so I think that's what we have to do, especially in this mode of interviewing and meeting new people and loving like crazy, is they have to really, you know, they have to really feel our love before they feel our questions, before they feel, you know, that's the difference. You know, sometimes we talk about, you know, well, what do I do if people are like feeling, you know, like if they're going, why are you asking me these questions? And they're like, if they're getting cagey about you in the interview, then they clearly have not felt your love first, and that's why they're going, why are you asking me these questions? And so those are the two things that have to go hand in hand in order for you to be able to be successful in getting it to the point where you can present your opportunity and that they have ears to hear what you have to say. So just like Tom Chenault, everything in Youngevity for Tom Chenault is about AA. This is my new thing. Everything's going to be about Young Life from now on.
Young Life, yeah. Everything's around AA. 12-step.
It's a 12-step program. We're going to have a 12-step flow chart. It's going to be great. It's going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any questions on that? Anything to add? Anything that doesn't make sense?
For me,
Cool.
it's a lot. There's a lot to bring. I mean, that's a lot. It does, maybe to you, it's not a lot, but for me, I've tried to, the conversations I've had, I've just tried to listen, reach out and listen to as many people as possible. And with some people, the follow-up has been just, hey, is there any change in this? And now it's presenting the opportunity, and I've done that a couple of times, 3 times. But now I need to figure out a way to transition that into a 3-way call, which I'll do. I just needed to find a way to do that. So
yeah.
Which understanding it as 2 different paths, as a relationship and then an opportunity, as understanding, you know, the word you used, I think, was points, which I know you just but that resonates with me a little bit. So I think that'll help me. But I'm gonna mute.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. And you know, it's totally, you know, all the time I run in, you know, I'm somewhere in this progression, and you know, it's hard to know what to do, and you're, you know, you either care about it because you think this person is really high potential, or you care about it because this is somebody you really care about, or both. And it's sometimes hard when you're in the middle of it to feel like you know what to do. So that's totally the kind of stuff that we should be talking to each other about. Like, James, call Doug, call me, call Dad. You know, like I routinely do that, where I'm, you know, I ask for some coaching on how to transition it, because that's a very that can be a very tricky part of the process. And so that, you know, just know that that's something that we all feel all the time, and that it's very appropriate to reach out for some advice there. Awesome. Okay. Good deal. So kind of in that vein, you know, as you guys are processing this and thinking about it, are there any conversations that you are in the middle of that anybody would like to sort of throw out there in the mix of for us to kind of collectively talk through?
Ferris and I are flying to Vegas together.
Who's Ferris?
Ferris, the lady that you met with her dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
no kidding.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, I can share, do you want me to share a little bit around that?
Yeah, totally.
So this lady's in my leads group, and she does a like blood lab franchise. That's what she bought. I found out she's really passionate about people. She used to be a State Farm agent, and she actually sold that. And but anyway, so she so I, you know, we talked. The initial meeting was, she knew what I did and I knew what she did. Mm-hmm. So the conversation was a little bit different conversation than, right, just meeting somebody brand new. But anyway, so I said, I want to come and see your lab and see what you do. And she goes, well, I want to come by and see what you do. And so actually I called Adrian and we set up, it's kind of a impromptu three-way because her dad, she said, well, my dad's coming into town and I'd love to bring him over. And so we sat down and it went really well. I thought it went really well. I mean, her dad was really excited. He bought one of the epigenetics books and was reading it. But what I want to share here is that, this was just like a very fast 6 or 7 interactions, a couple text messages, and all of a sudden now her dad's sitting there. And I just happened to find out she's going to be in Vegas the same time.
She's going to the bachelorette.
She's going to a bachelorette party, and I hadn't even booked my ticket. And so I talked to her yesterday, and she goes, she said, we should fly out together. I said, oh, absolutely. When are you going? And so I bought my ticket this morning, and her and I are flying out together. But I feel like this relationship is just going really, really fast.
Yeah.
But that's not always the way, right? It's not always the way. And so, because it's going really fast, and now she stood up at the networking thing and really gave me kudos about our products and the science behind it and all that kind of stuff, and is becoming an advocate, still not in the business.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe as soon as her dad gets done with that epigenetics book, she will be. But, we got the three-way in there, which I think was a great, a spot within the 7 touches or however many, that we can come back around when she's ready to jump into the business and do another connection in here. So I think sometimes flow chart, Doug, I understand that three-way call, if they say yes here or do that, but it's really not. And I think you, even being new, you kind of knew in your process with Doug when the time was right.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of knew because of the conversation and the process that went along.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of use that example of when you're pregnant,
Yeah.
and you keep thinking you're in labor,
I don't have the slightest clue about that, but
no,
having been on the hip hand crushed end of that thing, that's I'm sure that's a very good analogy.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
When you do the three-way, before you do the three-way, when you're in the CSI and you're getting your touch points, there is a transition there to the three-way. To me, it seems like you have to let them know that you're in network marketing at some point. You can't just jump them into a three-way that's the big question I'm struggling with, is trying to figure out how that transitions from just hitting the touch points or finding the touch points in the three-way and then transitioning.
I think it's a spectrum, John. So I think you certainly you never want to hide from it, but you also, I lean on Dad, in my case, on these three ways that, like, I want to take it as far as makes sense prior to the three-way and have the three-way be set up powerfully, but I want to take it no further than makes sense. And I don't put pressure on myself to have it to a certain point before the three-way, because I know that, like, he's going to do a better job of explaining most of those things than I would anyway, number one. But number two, even if that's not true, like, even if it's me as your upline and that's on the call, that's not a powerhouse the way that Dad is, there's just there's a different listening that comes from that outside expert, especially if you've done the edification right, that I can be bolder, I can say more, I don't have the baggage of worrying about how they're going to receive, like, I'm obviously trying to honor your relationship, and you and I have done several three-way calls, so that that's the case, but, like, I don't have the sort of tightrope that I have to walk. is not a tightrope, it's a balance beam. You're walking a tightrope. And so the more of it that you can put on your upline, the better. What you have to make sure of is, I think the gut check is, you don't want the person to feel surprised or tricked on the three-way call. As long as that's the case, like as long as the three-way call kind of is within the general realm of what they were expecting to happen on that phone call, then you're good. But that could, it could be that you've never mentioned longevity to a person and you bring them to a three-way call if you have a strong enough relationship, and that would be fine. It could also be that, it's much more like the person's far along in the process, and the three-way call is about me helping you to bring that person to the point of making a decision to it.
But I also think the three-way call, if it's not talking about longevity, it's really strengthening the relationship, right, between you and that other person by bringing that other third party in. So you can use it that way.
So I know that was kind of a non-answer because I kind of gave you the it can be anything, but I'm saying that because it's true. So sorry, but I think that and maybe you and I can. Either we can discuss it further now if you have questions, or we can take it offline, is that it may be that for each of you as individuals, and for you, John, as an individual, that you have a place that is where you want to generally get to from a comfort level perspective, and we can explore what that looks like and try to lay the game plan for how you get there, and then how you take it from that point to introducing the three-way call and getting it set up.
One more thing. The real big reason I really wanted Adrienne to be part of that conversation is because she's a millennial and you're a millennial. I might have thought of someone else depending on how who that person was. I might have brought in Trish, or I might have brought in someone else on my team, either upline or crossline, or just depending. But I felt that Adrienne could really see, and you did really well. I mean, you guys were like having conversations that, I think her and her dad, her dad and I are a little bit closer in age. So that just tightened her and our relationship by you being a part of that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Adrienne, a follow-up question on that. I think I had heard your dad say, like, best case scenario, you've not mentioned longevity before the three-way call, or network marketing. And sometimes what I hear your dad say is like this, like, rule that, like, this is the approach, and then it's you dig in a little bit more, and he's like, that's more of a teaching point, and it's a spectrum. I think that kind of specifically related to this motion when we were trying to shoehorn that 20 and 30 is when he said that. I don't think I've really heard him say that much outside. So in the case of we're trying to go really fast, I think what he was advocating for is, I'm going to be able to go, like, if you go A to B to C, I can go C to Z. Whereas if you try to take them all the way to N, like, you're going to get stuck and fall on yourself a couple times trying to go this fast. So I can't say that with certainty, but that would be my guess as to what.
Yeah, and it's just a funny story because Tom and I were coming out of the coffee shop and ran into a lady that he hadn't seen for a long time. Had about a 2-second conversation. She's like, "So what are you doing now?" And he just blurted his mom and longevity and da. And she goes, "Oh, I would never do network marketing." Like, she was like this to him and all that. And we kind of walked away, and I just thought it was hilarious. So even he sometimes just, prematurely said something, and we were just chuckling about it. And but it happens. So sometimes it happens. I've heard Scott Pardulis confess that he told somebody it was longevity without, really getting to the point where he wanted it to be before he said longevity. So we all slip up. It's not like we're perfect. I've done some crazy things myself. So, but what to get to that point, and I think Tom was talking about the other day, where people are actually kind of coming to you. Right? Yeah. That's really the attraction is happening. They're coming to you and going, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm seeing this. I think I want to be a part of it. And I've had a couple of people do that, and it's a good feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
So I didn't mean to pick up.
No, you didn't. It was good. Okay. John, does that help?
It helps, yeah. But let's see here. Yeah, it helps. to some degree, I'm thinking about, Natalie and in that situation, we have long time history and well developed, and I want to get her to a three-way for sure, but I don't want it to be a big surprise.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah. So let's maybe talk. Okay, is it okay if I kind of give some background on that one, and then we can use that as an example a little bit?
Yeah.
So Natalie's a gal who John worked with in the hospital, probably 15, 20 years younger than you, John, approximately.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So was a tech or something along those lines, and has now gone back to nursing school. So she's just finishing nursing school, and she's getting ready to go and be an operating room nurse, which is what John was. And that is good money and terrible hours and no control over your life. And so this young, or not young woman, this normal-aged woman has
your age
has in the prime of her life has a real entrepreneurial spirit about her. John loves her, she loves John, and he really and she would be a rock star in this movie. She's far and away the number one prospect on his list. And so he's trying to figure out how to take it there. And so what has been cool is that John has kind of made a few noises along the way in his interactions with her, especially when he came out here to Colorado. So Natalie actually has some awareness of us and Dad specifically. Who knows how developed that is from her side, because they haven't, John and Natalie haven't spent a lot of time talking, but it's on her radar screen. And so you've got the situation where John is in some ways kind of like a father figure or a mentor figure in her life. She obviously just invested a lot of time, money, energy in this degree to become a nurse. So she's, clearly pointed in that direction, but he feels like there's an opportunity to share with her that there's an additional way or a different way or whatever that is. And so that's kind of to set that scene. And so I guess maybe before I jump in, like, does anybody have any, based on that sort of set of circumstances, does anybody have any suggestions on how John could approach progressing that conversation?
I think I would approach it. I would just approach it as I would do this. I would have the three-way conversation with you or your dad, and then that would generate questions. I think after that conversation, she would say, "Well, what does he do? What is that all about?" And then you could present the opportunity a little bit, and then you're just selling a little bit of hope. And the words you were using was, a different way, or and the words that I'm used to using is it's a better way. So I think that I wouldn't position it as replacement income for whatever she's doing now, the nursing gig, because number one, she's probably invested a butt ton of money into becoming this nurse, and she's got probably a butt ton of debt from doing this. So there's some pride built up in her, some personal accountability. She's going to be paying you. So you don't want to say, well, listen, forget that. That's dumb. You want to position it as, someday if you want the opportunity for some freedom from doing that, you can position yourself now. And I think, like Doug was telling me, it's an investment in your future. Right now, start investing for that day that, that comes where maybe either you want a career change, or you want a way to pay off that student loan. This is an opportunity to help you pay off that student loan early to save yourself thousands in interest. So that's how I would position it. That's myself. I'm going to mute.
I think that's great.
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So in her case, I think what I heard James here say, which I think is very wise, is certainly she's not ready for a three-way call in which we try to close her or have her make any kind of decision at all. But I think you have already kind of piqued her interest that there's this group of people that you were working with that are heavy hitters. And I think getting her just an introductory call where we use that to start the conversation instead of you having to figure out how to start that conversation could be really cool. And so, I think the motion would be for you to interview her again or first and kind of validate some of the assumptions that James made, which I think are really good assumptions. But to know where she is, have that CSI into that conversation feed into, I love what you're doing. I want to introduce you to these guys that I'm working with. There's no sales pitch or anything. Like, I just want you to hear a little bit more. I want you to meet them because they're awesome. And I've been telling them about you. I'd love for you to meet them or whatever that is. And just have it be really light and really keep that three-way, whether it's both of us or just Dad and you and her, keep that really, really light. And that just begins the journey of a conversation that we can see where it goes.
Maybe, if I could add one thing to that, maybe it's a little bit sketchy of me or it's the salesman in me, but I would plant some seeds about that student loan. That's a lot of student loan debt. I would plant those seeds, and I'd share that with this group, but nobody else. But I'd say that I'd mention that in conversation, just off the wall, like, man, I'm still paying student loan debt, or there's people out there, however you do it. I know how I would do it, but however you do it, I plant that seed so that way at some point when you bring up the opportunity as a way to pay off that student loan debt early, you're that release valve that she needs.
Yeah. So I'm copying up a loan over here. That's my Marianne's last name. It's because I just gave her this
Adrian, you got to look into this Dr. Wallet guy.
Yeah.
For your health.
The amount of nutrition coursing through my veins right now is epic. So it's gonna.
I'm gonna go up and double mine.
Yeah. She's gonna go and take a rubbing alcohol bath and then take some vitamins. All right. So hey, we're at the hour here. So let's wrap it up for today. The one thing that I want to do, since we didn't get a chance to come to it today, is I would like for each of us to set a goal for this week, and I think that's going to be one of the key topics for next week for us to talk a little bit more about. So let's do that in the Facebook group now that we have convinced Doug to join the profile scraping dark side of social media. And so let's all put it out there. I'll share this recording as well in the Facebook group, so we've got that there. And that way, as we add folks in the future, instead of having an email list that's kind of turns into a snowball, we can just add folks to that Facebook group and start talking about that. But let's all share our goals for this week in terms of activities and outcomes, and we can talk about that and how everything's going for us on the call next week.
This is good. I'm glad we've run out of time because I was nervous to tell you all that I didn't accomplish my goals from last week.
Yeah, I didn't accomplish mine either.
You're off the hook for one more week.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. You're not the only one.
I know. This is great, Adrian. Thank you so much for facilitating and leading and being patient with our banter.
This is awesome. You guys, this is a great team. Thank you all for being here, and have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody.
See ya.
Good luck.
All right, Sam.
Bye-bye.
Hey.